Hello, true duelists. It's YGO Strat's Yu-Gi-Oh! Single Card History, where I'm going to be talking about some of the cards that have impacted Yu-Gi-Oh! Throughout the years, and some of the other ones that didn't. Today's card, the least affordable staple of 2021, Forbidden Droplet. Forbidden Droplet was first released in Rise of the Duelist in 2020 as a secret rare, with notable reprints to date including an Ultimate Rare printing in OTS Pack 16 in 2021, it got another secret rare print in Brothers of Legend again in 2021, an ultra rare print in Legendary Duelists Duels from the Deep in 2022, and another secret rare in the 2022 Megatins, because putting it in the 2021 Megatin would have made too much sense, or in this case, dollars. As of this video, it has spent no time on the ban list. A quick play spell card, its effect reads: send any number of other cards from your hand and or field to the graveyard. Choose that many effect monsters your opponent controls, and until the end of this turn, their attack is halved, also their effects are negated. In response to this card's activation, your opponent cannot activate cards or the effects of cards with the same original type, monster, spell, or trap, as the cards sent to the graveyard to activate this card. You can only activate one Forbidden Droplet per turn. Droplet is the fifth in the line of forbidden quick play spells, and that's not referring to any status on the forbidden and limited lists. The forbidden series of spells are an old and somewhat of a gold one, having been solid in various formats across Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Forbidden Lance was a staple in 2012 formats for its versatility. Forbidden Chalice has seen sporadic play as an effect veiler on your own turn to off obnoxious monster effects, and Forbidden Dress has seen minimal play only because players don't immediately understand it, assuming it can stop an effect that's already targeting a monster by using it as chain link too, when in reality you can't do that, and then once they learn that fact, they take it out of their decks promptly. And also Forbidden Scripture exists. The series has a solid reputation in the minds of players, or at least I feel that's the case, probably on par with the Rescue series of monsters, more or less. Yeah, there's been some duds, but they're mostly solid, with one that was really great. And Droplet steps in to serve that role, because this is the quick play that really is great. Where the fuck am I doing Tony the Tiger? Monster negation has only become more and more important in Yu-Gi-Oh! Over time, going from strong to have to essentially mandatory over the course of the last decade or so. And while Chalice already offered monster negation on a quick play spell card, it quickly became not enough in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! By the time 2020 came around, we were already past the point of the Synchro era and something like Dark Armed being the threat to beat. This is a joke because Chalice is a card that is older than you probably realize. No, because in the set after Forbidden Droplet was released, we got the Virtual World archetype, which at its prime was known for pumping out not just one, but two copies of True King of All Calamities, or as I'm going to refer to it from now on, VFD. It's a card that makes all monsters on the opponent's field become a declared attribute, and monsters in the opponent's possession of that specific attribute cannot attack or activate their effects. That's not just a blanket fiendish chain of sorts for your field, it means any monster in your hand, in your graveyard, in your banished pile, anywhere that is the declared attribute cannot use their effects. If True King of All Calamities calls fire, then you can't use Ash Blossom, because speaking practically, possession in regards to Yu-Gi-Oh! Refers to any card that you own that's in your deck. And having two copies of this stupid fucker meant that one Chalice, one Imperm, doesn't cut it anymore, because they can chain the second VFD effect to whatever it is you're trying to negate. And so Spotlight Droplet. Not only is Droplet a convenient answer to multiple monster effects, but depending on the cards you send to the grave to activate it, it can make it so the opponent is unable to respond to it at all. This means sending a monster to the grave to use Droplet makes it a Dark Ruler no more, or sending a trap card makes it Solemn Proof. This made it invaluable against the likes of, say, Full Power VW, or a particularly strong Adamancipator board, or any other monster-heavy deck. But it only gets better from here, because not only does Forbidden Droplet function as a quick play Dark Ruler no more, as long as you play monsters to send, and let's be real, if you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In the modern day, you're playing some monsters. But it also doesn't target, which means it can function as an out to Towers-esque monsters like Red Eye's Dark Dragoon, a not uncommon threat in 2021 while Verte was still legal. It is worth noting that while Droplet is sometimes seen as the generically just better version of Dark Ruler No More, it isn't inherently better, at least more specifically not in every situation. In regard to the VFD or Calamity situation that virtual world decks put players through, Droplet was objectively better for being able to stop VFD if activated in the draw phase or standby phase, because if the VAW player used its effect before the main phase, then Dark Ruler No More was useless. It can't negate the lingering effect that VFD already applied. But if the opponent has a strong board of 4 monsters whose effects you want to negate, Droplet will require you to send 4 other cards to the grave to negate them, at which point Dark Ruler No More is better purely for your card advantage. There's also the fact that Droplet has to send cards to the grave to activate its effect. If the opponent has Masked Hero Darklaw, or say one of the 3 Macro Cosmos that the newest ban list has given us as I make this video, or any type of effect that would banish a card sent to the graveyard, you aren't even able to activate Droplet because you're unable to meet its activation requirements. You gotta send those cards to the graveyard specifically. So depending on what's up, depends on which card you want in regards to Droplet or Dark Ruler. But the real clinch for why Droplet is more desirable is because of the simple fact that Droplet can be used and you can still OTK, while Dark Ruler No More stops the opponent from taking any damage. It's as simple as that. One lets you go for game, and as such, one is more appealing, let's say, for that simple reason. In regards to the competitive play that it's seen, it's a modern side deck staple. That is to say, since it was released, it's been seeing play. Some formats saw it as more desirable, and some saw it as less desirable. And it was always a good card to have access to, even when the only reprint was like a $300 ultimate rare in an OTS pack. I do also want to mention a few interesting rulings that pertain to this card specifically, and especially in regard to Appaloosa, the Bow of the Goddess, because it is neat and maybe not exactly how you assume the cards would interact. Generally speaking in Yu-Gi-Oh, if you've got a monster effect that's giving some amount of attack, when that monster's effects are negated, it will lose said attack. You can see this with Appaloosa. If you ever use Infinite Impermanence on it, its attack drops to 0. But for Droplet, it will cut the attack of the monsters it negates in half and sort of lock or freeze them there, and then negate the effects. So if the opponent has a fat 3200 Appaloosa on board, Droplet will set it to 1600 attack for the turn, and then it'll negate its effects. As I understand it, this is because while on the board, Appaloosa's attack is being set by its own effect, namely 800 times the number of materials. But once Droplet's effect is applied, Droplet's effect will then determine its attack as long as it's being applied, namely until the end of the turn. So throughout the course of the turn, Appaloosa will have 16, and then at the end of the turn, it'll realize its effects have been negated, and its attack will drop to 0. Just a funny ruling in regards to this card, put simply. The more you know. There's also the neat tidbit that Droplet has to negate the same number of monster effects as cards you send to the grave in order for it to properly resolve. So if you send 2 monsters from your hand to the grave to negate 2 monsters on the opponent's field, and then the opponent does some bullshit like activates Compulsory Evacuation Device and bounces one of their own monsters to the hand, the effect of Droplet won't properly apply. It would resolve without effect in that case, as it has to negate the same number of cards you sent. It can't send 2 and only negate 1. This one, I will admit, I'm only 99.999% sure on, so if a commenter knows and can point me to a definitive source, either proving or disproving this, it would be appreciated, but I've yet to have a judge tell me I'm wrong for this. It hasn't come up with too much issue. Maybe I've been cheating. Haha, oops, it's not intentional. But again, if you can point me to something that's definitive, that can tell me I am right, would be greatly appreciated, because for whatever reason, I've yet to find anything. Isn't Yu-Gi-Oh just really simple and fun? Overall, Forbidden Droplet is a card. As good as it is complex, it would seem, having some unique rulings applied to it, and even more uses to help you win a game. Its quick play status means that it can be changed to not just the opponent's effects, but to your own effects as well. This can be cheeky if you chain it to the activation of, say, a Pot of Prosperity, and then send that Pot of Prosperity to the grave to negate an effect, as a means to help mitigate the cost without just getting rid of cards and not using them. Put simply, its ability to negate monster effects in a way that can't be responded to helps to allow for board breaking as well as OTKs, which is something that Dark Ruler No More can only dream of. It's a great card for the sideboard, and even in the main deck has mained hate in some formats, and will most certainly be a staple for years to come. All in all, it lives up to the legacy Forbidden Lance left for it, and its artwork is pretty damn cool to boot. And so, that's our look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Single Card History Forbidden Droplet. Stay tuned for our next video, and feel free to suggest some cards to review or what type of video you'd like to see. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, hot smoking Italian wives. Everyone's a true duelist here at YGO Strats.